Jake Miller wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked at the broken alien armor lying on his workbench. The metal was unlike anything he had ever seen before. It was smooth and silver, with strange blue lines running through it like veins. The armor belonged to a Zephyrian warrior, and everyone said it was impossible to fix. Jake worked in the armory of the Liberty's Edge, a big human spaceship that traveled between planets. He was a Marine sergeant, but his real job was fixing things. He could repair almost anything, even alien technology that other humans could not understand. His friends called him the miracle worker because he never gave up on broken equipment. The ship had just come back from a dangerous mission. They were supposed to make peace with the Zephyrians, a race of tall alien warriors. But things went wrong. A group of rebels attacked the peace talks, and the humans had to fight their way out. During the escape, they rescued a Zephyrian warrior whose armor was badly damaged. Captain Lisa Hayes brought the alien to Jake's workshop 3 hours ago. The Zephyrian was tall, almost 7 feet, with silver skin that looked like scales. Her eyes were bright amber like fire. She moved like a predator even when she was hurt. Her name was Zara Vex, and she was a lieutenant in the Zephyrian military. "Can you fix it?" Captain Hayes had asked Jake, pointing to the damaged armor. Jake looked at the complex technology. The armor was not just metal and circuits. It was alive somehow, connected to the alien's body and mind. Most humans would say it was impossible to repair. But Jake had never met a machine he could not fix. "I'll try," he told the captain. Now Jake stood alone in his workshop, studying the armor. The Zephyrians were known across the galaxy as the best warriors. They were strong, fast, and lived much longer than humans. Most aliens thought humans were weak and primitive. The Zephyrians especially looked down on humans. They said humans were too soft and died too quickly to be real warriors. Jake picked up a small tool and carefully touched one of the blue lines in the armor. It sparked, and he pulled his hand back. The armor was still connected to some kind of power source, but he could not figure out how it worked. Human technology used electricity and computers. This alien armor seemed to use something else entirely. The workshop door opened with a soft hiss. Jake looked up to see Zara Vex walking toward him. She had changed out of her damaged armor into simple gray clothes that the ship's medical team had given her. Even without her armor, she looked dangerous. Her muscles were clearly defined under her scaled skin, and she moved without making any sound. "Human," she said, her voice deep and cold. "What are you doing with my armor?" Jake set down his tool and faced her. "Trying to fix it. Captain Hayes asked me to repair the damage." Zara laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You cannot repair Zephyrian battle armor. It is bonded to my neural patterns. Only Zephyrian technicians with years of training can work on it. You are just a human." "Maybe," Jake said, turning back to the armor. "But I'm the only one here who's willing to try." Zara moved closer, her amber eyes studying Jake's face. "Why do you waste your time? When we reach the next station, I will find proper technicians to fix it." Jake picked up another tool and pointed to a section where the armor was cracked open. "See this damage here? By the time we reach a station, the bio-neural connections will be completely dead. The armor will be useless. You'll need a whole new set which takes months to grow and bond." Zara's eyes widened slightly. She had not expected a human to understand how Zephyrian armor worked. "How do you know about bio-neural connections?" "I read everything I can about alien technology," Jake said. "Humans might not live as long as other species, but we learn fast. We have to, if we want to survive in this galaxy." Zara crossed her arms and looked at Jake with new interest. "You think you can repair what 3 Zephyrian technicians said was beyond saving?" "I think I can try something different," Jake said. He pointed to his workbench, which was covered with both human and alien tools. "Human technology works differently than yours. Maybe that's an advantage." "Explain," Zara said, sitting down on a nearby chair. It was clear she did not believe Jake could help, but she was curious about what he might try. Jake picked up the chest piece of the armor. "Your people build technology that bonds with the user. It's beautiful and very advanced, but it also means everything has to be perfect or it doesn't work at all. He set the armor piece down and picked up a human circuit board. Human technology is different. We build things that can be fixed, changed, and improved. We expect things to break, so we make them easy to repair. Zara looked at the human circuit board. It was ugly compared to Zephyrian technology, with thick wires and bulky components. Your technology looks primitive. Maybe, Jake said with a smile. But it works, and when it breaks, we can fix it with basic tools and spare parts. We don't need special training or perfect conditions. Zara was quiet for a moment, thinking about what Jake had said. So you think you can make my armor work like human technology? Not exactly, Jake said. But I think I can build a bridge between your technology and mine. Something that will let the armor work even if it's not perfect. Jake spent the next hour explaining his idea to Zara. He wanted to create a small human computer that could translate between her neural patterns and the armor's biosystems. It would not be as elegant as the original Zephyrian design, but it might work. As Jake talked, Zara found herself listening more carefully. The human's idea was strange, but it showed a kind of thinking she had never seen before. Zephyrians tried to make everything perfect from the start. Humans seemed to accept that things would be imperfect and plan for it. Your plan might work, Zara said finally. But why are you helping me? Your people and my people are not friends. Jake looked up from the armor. Because it's the right thing to do, and because maybe, if we help each other, our people can become friends. Zara studied Jake's face. She had been taught that humans were weak and emotional. But this human showed no fear of her, even though she could break him in half without effort. He was risking his reputation and time to help someone from a species that looked down on his people. I will watch you work, Zara said. If you can truly repair my armor, perhaps there is more to humans than I thought. Jake smiled and picked up his tools. Then let's get started. As Jake began working on the armor, Zara settled into her chair to watch. She did not know it yet, but this was the beginning of something that would change both their lives and the future of their species. 3 days had passed since Jake started working on Zara's armor. Every morning she came to the workshop and sat in the same chair, watching him work. At first, she said very little, just observed with her bright amber eyes. But slowly, she began to ask questions. Why do you use such thick wires? Zara asked on the second day, pointing to Jake's work. Jake looked up from the small computer he was building. Because thick wires don't break easily. Thin wires work better, but if something goes wrong, they snap. Thick wires keep working even when things get rough. Zara made a sound that might have been disapproval. Zephyrian technology uses energy, fields instead of wires. Much more efficient. I'm sure it is, Jake said, continuing his work. But what happens when those energy fields get disrupted? Zara was quiet for a moment. The system stops working until it can be properly repaired. Exactly, Jake said with a small smile. Human wires might be ugly, but they keep working even when everything else goes wrong. On the third day, Zara seemed more talkative. She told Jake about Zephyrian warrior culture, how they trained from childhood to be perfect fighters. She explained that weakness was not tolerated in her society. The strong protected the weak, but the weak were expected to stay out of the way. Humans are physically weak, Zara said, not trying to be cruel, just stating what she saw as fact. How do you survive in this galaxy? Jake paused in his work and thought about the question. We work together. One human might not be strong, but 100 humans working as a team can do amazing things. But you also fight each other, Zara pointed out. We have studied your history. Humans have many wars. Jake nodded sadly. True, we're not perfect, but we learn from our mistakes. Each war teaches us something about cooperation and peace. Zara looked puzzled. How can war teach peace? Jake set down his tools and turned to face her. Because after every war, some humans ask themselves if there was a better way. Those humans work to build something better. It takes time, and we make a lot of mistakes, but we keep trying. As the days went on, Jake shared stories about human history. He told Zara about scientists who spent their whole lives trying to cure diseases, even when everyone said it was impossible. He talked about explorers who risked everything to find new worlds. He described ordinary people who stood up to bullies and tyrants, even when they knew they might die. "Your people are strange," Zara said after hearing about a human who gave his life to save children from a burning building. He gained nothing from his sacrifice. "He saved lives," Jake said. "That was enough for him." Zara shook her head. "Zephyrians would save the children too, but we would expect honor and recognition for our actions." "Nothing wrong with that," Jake said. "But sometimes the best humans do good things just because they're good things to do." While they talked, Jake continued working on the armor. The biggest challenge was the bio-neural interface, the part that connected the armor to Zara's mind and body. Zephyrian technicians had designed it to recognize only Zephyrian brain patterns. Jake needed to find a way around that. He tried many different approaches. First, he attempted to copy Zara's neural patterns into his computer. That failed because human technology could not read Zephyrian thoughts. Next, he tried to build a universal translator that could convert any brain patterns into something the armor could understand. That also failed because every species thought differently. "This is impossible," Zara said after watching Jake's 10th failed attempt. "The armor was designed to work only with Zephyrian minds. You cannot change that." Jake looked at the armor, pieces spread across his workbench. Zara was probably right. The bio-neural interface was too complex and too alien for him to fully understand. But he had an idea that he had not tried yet. "What if I don't try to make the armor recognize human patterns?" Jake said, talking to himself as much as to Zara. "What if I make it recognize something else?" "What do you mean?" Zara asked. Jake picked up the neural interface and studied it carefully. "This armor was made for warriors, right? It responds to the mind of someone who fights to protect others." "Yes, that is correct." "Then maybe it doesn't need to recognize Zephyrian thoughts specifically. Maybe it just needs to recognize warrior thoughts." Zara leaned forward, interested, despite herself. "Explain." Jake began connecting new circuits to the interface. "What makes someone a warrior? Is it their species or is it their willingness to fight for what they believe in?" "The willingness to fight," Zara said slowly. "But humans are not warriors like Zephyrians." "Maybe not the same way," Jake agreed. "But humans fight for their families, their friends, their beliefs. We might not be as strong or as skilled, but we have the same warrior spirit." Jake worked for hours, modifying the bio-neural interface. Instead of looking for specific Zephyrian brain patterns, he programmed it to recognize determination, courage, and the desire to protect others. These were feelings that any warrior would have, regardless of their species. "It might work," Jake said finally, wiping sweat from his forehead. "But we won't know until you try it on." Zara looked at the modified armor. Jake had been working on it for 3 days, barely stopping to eat or sleep. No Zephyrian would have spent so much effort helping someone from another species. Yet this human had given his all to help her. "Why?" she asked suddenly. "Why what? Why do you work so hard for me? I have been rude to you. I have insulted your species. Yet you continue to help me." Jake smiled and began putting the armor pieces together. "Because you're here, and you need help. That's enough reason for me." Zara watched Jake's hands as he worked. They were smaller than Zephyrian hands and his fingers were not as strong. But they moved with skill and care. He treated her armor like it was precious, even though it belonged to someone who had shown him little kindness. "I have misjudged humans," Zara said quietly. Jake looked up at her. "What do you mean?" "I thought humans were weak because you are small and your lives are short. But I see now that size and lifespan do not determine strength." "What does?" Jake asked. Zara was quiet for a long moment. "The willingness to help others, even when you gain nothing from it. The determination to keep trying when everyone says something is impossible. The courage to be kind to those who have not been kind to you." Jake finished connecting the last piece of the armor. "Ready to test it?" Zara stood up and moved toward the armor. For the first time since arriving on the human ship, she felt hopeful, not just about her armor, but about the possibility that humans and Zephyrians could understand each other. As she reached for the armor, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and the ship's intercom crackled. To life. All crew to battle stations, Captain Hayes' voice echoed through the ship. We are under attack. This is not a drill. Jake and Zara looked at each other. The armor was repaired, but they had not tested it yet. If Zara put it on now and it failed, she would be helpless. If she did not put it on, she would have no protection. At all. Do you trust me? Jake asked. Zara looked into his eyes and saw no doubt, only determination. After 3 days of watching him work, seeing his dedication and kindness, she realized that she did trust him. Yes, she said, and began putting on the armor. The bio-neural interface activated as soon as the helmet connected. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the armor came to life, its blue lines glowing brightly. Zara felt the familiar sensation of the armor bonding with her mind and body. It works, she said, amazement in her voice. Your idea actually works. Jake smiled, but his expression quickly became serious as the ship shook from weapons fire. Good. Because I think we're about to find out just how well it works. Together, they ran toward the sound of battle, ready to face whatever threat had found them in the darkness of space. The Liberty's edge shook again as enemy weapons hit the hull. Jake grabbed his rifle and extra ammunition while Zara tested her armor systems. The blue lines glowed bright, and all the displays showed green. The armor was working perfectly. This way, Jake said, leading Zara toward the bridge. The corridors were full of running crew members heading to their battle stations. Human Marines moved quickly but calmly, just like they had trained. Captain Hayes was shouting orders when Jake and Zara reached the bridge. The main screen showed 3 enemy ships attacking them. They were dark and angular, built for war rather than exploration. Captain, Jake called out. Zara's armor is operational. We're ready to help. Captain Hayes turned around, her face serious. Those are rebel ships. The same faction that attacked the peace talks. They must have followed us. Zara stepped forward, her armor making her look even more imposing. What do they want? You, Hayes said simply. And probably our technology too. They've been jamming our communications and trying to disable our engines. The ship shook again and sparks flew from one of the control panels. A young ensign ran up to Captain Hayes with a report. Ma'am, they've breached hull section 7 and 12. Boarding parties are coming through the airlocks. Captain Hayes nodded grimly. All security teams to defensive positions. We need to protect the engine room and the bridge. I can help. Fight them, Zara said. It is my fault they are here. Hayes looked at the tall alien warrior, then at Jake. Can we trust her? Jake spoke without hesitation. Yes, ma'am. Completely. Then gear up and help Lieutenant Commander Ross coordinate the defense, Hayes ordered. But remember, this is a human ship. We protect our own first. Jake and Zara ran through the corridors toward the fighting. They could hear the sound of energy weapons and human rifles echoing through the ship. The rebels had brought advanced weapons, but the human crew was fighting hard. They found Lieutenant Commander Ross and his team behind a barrier made of storage containers. The rebels were trying to push through to reach the engine room. Ross was a big man with gray hair and steady hands. He had been fighting wars since before Jake was born. We've got 12 hostiles, Ross told them. They're using energy shields and plasma rifles. Our bullets can get through their shields, but it takes time. Zara looked around the corner at the enemy forces. Those are Kelton mercenaries. They sell their services to whoever pays best. They are skilled fighters, but they have no honor. Can you take them? Ross asked. I can try, Zara said, but I will need support. Jake checked his rifle and looked at the human Marines around him. Most of them had never fought alongside an alien before, but they were ready to try. What's the plan? Zara pointed to a side corridor. I will attack from the front to draw their attention. You and your men can flank them from that passage. When they focus on me, hit them from the side. Ross nodded. Simple plan. I like it. But can your armor handle that much fire? We will find out, Zara said with what might have been a smile. Zara, moved out from behind the barrier, her armor glowing as its shields activated. The rebels immediately focused all their fire on her. Plasma bolts struck her shields, creating bright flashes, but the armor held. Jake was amazed at how she moved, fast and fluid, like she was dancing rather than fighting. While the rebels were distracted, Jake led 5 Marines through the side corridor. They moved quietly, using hand signals to communicate. Jake had learned these tactics in training, but he had never used them in real combat before. When they were in position, Jake raised his hand and counted down from 3. On 0, all 6 humans opened fire at the same time. The rebels were caught completely by surprise. 3 of them fell immediately, and the others scrambled to find cover. But the rebels were experienced fighters. They quickly split into 2 groups, with half continuing to fight Zara while the others turned to face Jake's team. The battle became a 3-way fight with energy bolts and bullets flying in all directions. Jake saw one of his Marines get hit by a plasma bolt. The young man cried out and fell behind cover, clutching his shoulder. Jake moved to help him, but a rebel appeared around the corner, raising his weapon to fire. Zara was there in an instant. She moved faster than Jake thought possible, reaching the rebel before he could shoot. Her armored fist struck him in the chest and the rebel flew backward into the wall. He did not get up. "Thank you," Jake said as Zara helped him drag the wounded Marine to safety. "We are partners now," Zara replied. "Partners protect each other." The battle continued for 10 more minutes. The rebels fought well, but they were outnumbered and surrounded. More human security teams arrived to help, and the rebels finally retreated back to their boarding ships. But as they retreated, Jake heard one of them speaking into a communicator. He was too far away to understand the words, but the tone sounded like someone giving a report. "They got what they came for," Jake said to Zara as they watched the rebel ships withdraw. "What do you mean?" "They weren't really trying to capture you," Jake realized. "They were studying us, learning how humans and Zephyrians fight together." Zara's amber eyes widened as she understood. "They wanted to see if the alliance between our species is real. And now they know it is," Jake said. "That information is worth more to them than capturing either of us." Captain Hayes called all senior staff to the bridge for a debriefing. Jake and Zara were included because they had played important roles in the defense. The ship's doctor reported that they had lost 2 crew members and had 8 wounded, but the rebels had suffered much worse casualties. "The rebels' real target was intelligence," Hayes said after hearing Jake's theory. "They now know that humans and Zephyrians can work together effectively. That information changes the balance of power in this sector." "Why does that matter?" asked one of the young officers. Commander Ross answered. "Because if humans and Zephyrians form an alliance, other species might want to join us. The rebels and their supporters profit from keeping species separate and fighting each other." Zara stepped forward. "Captain Hayes, I request permission to send a message to my government. They need to know what happened here." "Granted," Hayes said, "but be careful what you say. We don't know who might be listening." As the meeting ended, Jake and Zara walked back toward the armory. The armor had performed perfectly during the battle, but Jake wanted to check for any damage. They moved through corridors where repair teams were already working to fix the damage from the attack. "Your armor saved my life," Jake said as they walked. "When that rebel was about to shoot me, you moved faster than I've ever seen anyone move." "The armor amplifies my natural abilities," Zara explained, "but it only works because of your modifications. A normal Zephyrian bio-neural interface would not have responded so quickly to my desire to protect you." Jake stopped walking and looked at her. "Protect me?" Zara also stopped, her amber eyes meeting his. "Yes. During the battle, my strongest thought was keeping you safe. The armor responded to that thought and made me faster and stronger." "But why?" Jake asked. "I'm just a human technician." Zara was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "You are not just anything, Jake Miller. You are someone who sees possibilities where others see only problems. You are someone who works to help others, even when they do not deserve it. You are someone worth protecting." Jake felt something warm in his chest, a feeling he had not expected. During the battle, He had been focused on protecting Zara and his fellow humans. But now he realized that she had been protecting him too. They had been watching out for each other like true partners. "The armor modifications worked better than I hoped," Jake said finally. "Yes," Zara agreed. "But I think the most important modification was not to the armor." "What do you mean?" Zara smiled, the first real smile Jake had seen from her. "The most important modification was to how I think about humans. You changed my mind about your species, Jake Miller. And that change saved both our lives today." As they reached the armory, Jake realized that everything had changed. The battle had proven that humans and Zephyrians could fight together successfully. But more than that, it had shown that they could trust each other completely. The rebels had wanted to learn about human-Zephyrian cooperation. What they had discovered was that when two very different species worked together, they became stronger than either could be alone. It was a lesson that would change the galaxy. But first, it was changing two individuals who had learned to see past their differences. 2 days had passed since the rebel attack. The Liberty's Edge was quiet again, with repair teams working to fix the damage. Jake was back in his armory, checking Zara's armor for any problems from the battle. The armor had performed perfectly, but he wanted to make sure everything was still working right. Zara sat in her usual chair, watching Jake work. She had been quieter than usual since the battle. Sometimes Jake caught her looking at him with an expression he could not understand. It was not the cold look she had given him when they first met. This was something else, something warmer and more confused. "The bio-neural interface took some stress during the fight," Jake said, carefully opening a panel on the neck section of the armor. "I want to check the connections and make sure nothing is loose." Zara nodded, but said nothing. She had been thinking about what happened during the battle. When she saw that rebel about to shoot Jake, something had happened inside her that she did not understand. Her armor had responded to her emotions faster than it ever had before. The desire to protect Jake had been stronger than her own survival instinct. Jake worked with his usual care, his hands steady as he examined the tiny circuits inside the armor. The neck section was the most delicate part, where the neural interface connected directly to the wearer's spine. One wrong move could damage the whole system. "Jake," Zara said suddenly. "Yeah?" he replied, not looking up from his work. "During the battle, when I saved you from that rebel, what were you thinking?" Jake paused and looked at her. "I was thinking about getting our wounded Marine to safety." "Why?" "No, I mean, what were you thinking about me?" Jake set down his tools and turned to face her. "I was grateful and impressed. You moved faster than I thought was possible. You saved my life." Zara was quiet for a moment. "In Zephyrian culture, we are taught that emotions make warriors weak. Fear, anger, love. These things are supposed to distract us from our duty." "But you weren't distracted during the battle," Jake pointed out. "You fought better than ever." "Exactly," Zara said, her amber eyes intense. "That is what confuses me. When I saw you in danger, I felt something I had never felt before. It was not duty or honor that made me save you. It was something else." Jake went back to working on the armor, but his mind was focused on what Zara had said. He had felt something too during the battle when she had protected him. It was more than gratitude. It was a connection he had never experienced with anyone before. "Maybe emotions don't make warriors weak," Jake said softly. "Maybe they make warriors fight for something worth fighting for." Zara watched as Jake worked on the neural interface. His touch was gentle but sure. He treated her armor like it was precious, even though it was alien technology he barely understood. She had never seen anyone work with such care and patience. Jake was focused completely on his task. The neural connections were incredibly small, and one mistake could ruin hours of work. He used a tool that was barely bigger than a needle to adjust the bio-neural pathways. His concentration was so complete that he seemed unaware of anything else in the room. Zara found herself studying his face as he worked. Humans looked so different from Zephyrians. Their skin was soft instead of scaled, their features smaller and more delicate. Jake's hair was brown and fell across his forehead when he leaned forward. His eyes were blue like deep water. She had been taught that humans were weak because they were small. But watching Jake work, Zara realized that size had nothing to do with strength. Jake's strength was in his mind, his determination, his refusal to give up when things seemed impossible. "There," Jake said, finishing his work on a particularly complex connection. "That should hold for years." Zara realized she had been staring at him for several minutes. "You are very skilled with your hands." Jake smiled without looking up. "Practice. I've been fixing things since I was a kid. My father was an engineer too. He taught me that any problem can be solved if you're willing to spend enough time thinking about it." "Is he still alive?" Zara asked. Jake's expression became sad. "No, he died in the colony wars when I was 15. That's when I joined the Marines." Zara felt a strange pain in her chest. Humans had such short lives, and they lost people they loved so young. "I am sorry for your loss." "Thank you," Jake said. He would have liked this project. He always said that the best technology brings different people together instead of keeping them apart. Jake went back to work on the armor's next section. The connections there were the most important because they linked directly to the wearer's nervous system. He had to be very careful not to damage the delicate bioneural pathways. As Jake worked, Zara found herself thinking about her own life. Zephyrian warriors were trained from childhood to be independent and strong. They did not form close relationships because those relationships were seen as weaknesses. Zara had lived her whole life following those rules. But watching Jake work so carefully on her armor, seeing how much he cared about helping her, made Zara question everything she had been taught. How could caring about others be a weakness? Jake's desire to help people made him work harder and think more creatively. It made him stronger, not weaker. "Jake?" Zara said softly. He replied, still focused on his work. "What you did for me, repairing my armor when everyone said it was impossible. Why did you do it?" Jake paused in his work and looked up at her. "Because you needed help, and because I thought if I could fix your armor, maybe it would show that our species could work together. And now? After the battle, after seeing how well we fight together, what do you think now?" Jake set down his tools and turned to face her completely. "I think we're just getting started. I think humans and Zephyrians together could do amazing things." Zara stood up from her chair and moved closer to where Jake was working. She could see the concentration in his eyes, the care he took with every small adjustment. "What about us personally? Not our species, but us." Jake looked up at her, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Zara was standing very close to him, now close enough that he could see the complex patterns in her silver-scaled skin, close enough to see the depth of her amber eyes. "I don't know," Jake said honestly. "I've never met anyone like you before." "I have never met anyone like you either," Zara said quietly. Jake turned back to the armor, trying to focus on his work, but he was very aware of Zara standing so close to him. He could smell her scent, different from human, but not unpleasant. He could hear her breathing, slow and steady. As Jake worked on the final connections in the next section, Zara watched his face. She could see the small lines around his eyes from concentration, the way his lips pressed together when he was thinking hard. She had never noticed such details about anyone before. Something was happening inside Zara that she did not understand. Her heart was beating faster, and she felt warm despite the cool air in the armory. She had been trained to ignore such feelings, to focus only on duty and honor. But she could not ignore what she was feeling now. Jake made a final adjustment to the neural interface and leaned back to examine his work. "That should do it. The connections are stronger than ever." As he spoke, Zara leaned forward. Without thinking, without planning, she pressed her lips gently against the side of Jake's neck. It was a soft kiss, tender and warm. Jake froze, his tools still in his hands. He had not expected this. He had not even known it was possible. Zara was an alien warrior from a species that looked down on humans. But the kiss was real, and it sent warmth through his entire body. Zara pulled back, her amber eyes wide with surprise at her own actions. She had never done anything like that before. In Zephyrian culture, such displays of affection were rare and private. but something about Jake, about this moment, had made her act without thinking. Zara started to speak, then stopped. She did not know what to say. Jake set down his tools and turned to face her. Zara. I should not have done that, Zara said, stepping back. It was inappropriate. You are human, and I am Zephyrian. We are too different. Jake stood up and moved closer to her. Are we? After everything we've been through together, are we really that different? Zara looked into his blue eyes and saw no fear, no disgust, no rejection. She saw warmth and acceptance and something else that made her heart beat even faster. What are we doing, Jake? She asked softly. Jake reached out and gently touched her hand. Her skin was warm despite its scaled appearance. I think we're discovering that the galaxy is bigger and more wonderful than either of us imagined. Zara looked down at their joined hands, human and Zephyrian, so different but fitting together perfectly. My people would not understand. Mine might not either, Jake said. But maybe understanding will come later. Maybe the important thing is that we understand each other. Zara smiled, and this time it was not the careful smile of a diplomat or the fierce grin of a warrior. It was the smile of someone who had found something precious and unexpected. The armor is ready, Jake said, though neither of them moved to put it away. Yes, Zara agreed, but I think we are just beginning. The kiss had changed everything. Jake and Zara spent the rest of that day talking in the armory, sharing stories about their lives, their hopes, and their fears. For the first time, they spoke not as representatives of their species, but as two individuals who had found something special together. Jake told Zara about growing up on a human colony world, where his father had taught him to see beauty in broken things that could be repaired. Zara shared stories of her warrior training, and how she had always felt different from other Zephyrians because she asked too many questions. I was told that good warriors do not question orders, Zara said. But I always wondered why we could not work with other species instead of fighting them. And now you know, Jake said with a smile. 3 days later, Captain Hayes called them to the bridge. Her expression was serious, but there was excitement in her eyes. We've received communications from both Earth and the Zephyrian homeworld, Hayes announced. Word about our successful cooperation has spread quickly through diplomatic channels. Jake and Zara exchanged glances. They had known this moment would come, but it still felt overwhelming. What kind of communications? Zara asked. Hayes activated the main screen, showing messages from multiple species. The Galactic Council wants to meet with both of you. 7 different species have expressed interest in forming alliances with humanity, and the Zephyrian government wants to study Jake's modifications to your armor. Jake felt a mixture of pride and worry. Are we in trouble? Just the opposite, Hayes said. You've proven that different species can work together effectively. That's changed everything. But it's also made you both very important people. And important people have enemies. Commander Ross stepped forward with a tactical report. Intelligence suggests that the rebel attack was planned by something called the hegemony. They're a coalition of species that profit from keeping other races separated and fighting each other. They see human Zephyrian cooperation as a threat to their power, Hayes continued. The attack on our ship was just the beginning. They'll try to stop other species from forming alliances. Zara's armor was stored nearby, and Jake could see the modifications he had made glowing softly. What do we do? Hayes smiled. We do what humans do best. We adapt, we innovate, and we prove that cooperation is stronger than division. The captain activated another screen showing a star map. We're setting course for Earth. The human government wants to establish a formal alliance with the Zephyrian coalition, and they want Jake to head a new program developing joint species technology. Jake felt overwhelmed. I'm just a Marine sergeant. I fix things. You do more than that, Zara said, touching his arm. You bring different worlds together. Hayes looked at both of them carefully. There's something else. Zara, your government has offered you a choice. You can return to Zephyrian space as a hero, or you can stay with the human fleet as a technical advisor. Zara was quiet for a long moment. Jake held his breath. waiting for her answer. He realized that her decision would change the course of his life too. What would I do as a technical advisor? Zara asked. Work with Jake on new technologies. Help train human and Zephyrian teams to work together. Basically, help build the future you've both made possible. Zara looked at Jake and he saw the answer in her amber eyes before she spoke. I choose to stay. My people need to learn about cooperation, and I can learn more here than I could at home. Jake felt relief wash over him. Are you sure? You'd be giving up everything you know. Zara smiled. I am not giving up anything important. I am choosing to build something new. Captain Hayes nodded approvingly. Then it's settled. Jake, you'll be promoted to lieutenant and given command of the Joint Species Technology Program. Zara, you'll hold the rank of technical advisor with full access to human facilities. Over the following days, as the Liberty's Edge traveled toward Earth, Jake and Zara worked together on new projects. They designed armor that could be used by multiple species, weapons that combined human reliability with alien efficiency, and communication systems that could translate not just languages but ways of thinking. But more importantly, they were building something personal together. Their relationship was unlike anything either species had seen before. They had to create their own rules, their own ways of understanding each other. My people will be shocked, Zara said one evening as they worked late in the armory. Zephyrian warriors do not form romantic attachments, especially not with other species. Jake looked up from the project they were working on, a new type of bio-neural interface that could work with any species. Are you having second thoughts? Zara moved closer to him, her amber eyes warm. No, but I want you to understand what this means. I am choosing you over everything I was taught, everything my culture expects. Jake stood up and took her hands in his. I'm making the same choice. Humans have never formed relationships with other species either. We're writing new rules. Are you afraid? Zara asked. Jake thought about it honestly. Sometimes, but I'm more excited than afraid. We're proving that love can cross any barrier, even species. Zara leaned down and kissed him gently. It was easier now, more natural. They had learned each other's rhythms, found ways to be close despite their physical differences. When they broke apart, Jake smiled up at her. Besides, someone has to show the galaxy that cooperation works on every level. 2 weeks later, the Liberty's Edge arrived at Earth. Jake and Zara stood together on the bridge watching the blue and green planet grow larger on the screen. Ships from a dozen different species were already in orbit, waiting for the historic alliance ceremonies. Nervous? Jake asked. Excited, Zara replied. We are about to change the galaxy. Captain Hayes joined them at the viewing port. The media is calling you two the most important couple in galactic history. How does that feel? Jake and Zara looked at each other and laughed. Like a lot of pressure, Jake said. But good pressure, Zara added. The kind that makes you work harder to live up to expectations. The communication system activated, and a voice announced that transport shuttles were ready to take them to the surface. Jake picked up a bag containing his personal belongings and some of their joint projects. Zara's armor was carefully packed in a special container. As they walked toward the shuttle bay, they passed crew members who had become friends during the journey. Everyone wanted to shake their hands or wish them luck. The human crew had accepted Zara completely, and she had learned to see them as family. Ready for the next adventure? Jake asked as they boarded the shuttle. Zara looked out the window at the planet below where representatives from multiple species were waiting to learn about cooperation. With you, I am ready for anything. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, carrying 2 individuals who had started as strangers from different worlds and had become partners in every sense of the word. Below them, the galaxy was waiting to learn what they had discovered, that the strongest bonds were formed not between similar beings, but between different ones who chose to understand each other. As they landed, Jake and Zara knew that their personal journey was just beginning. They had proven that love could bridge any gap, that cooperation could overcome any obstacle, and that the future belonged to those brave enough to reach across the void between worlds. The rebel hegemony would continue to oppose them, and there would be challenges ahead that they could not imagine. But they would face those challenges together, human and Zephyrian, different yet united, showing the galaxy that the greatest strength came not from standing alone, but from standing together. In the months that followed, Jake and Zara would establish the first Interspecies Technology Institute, train the first joint military units, and help negotiate the alliance of worlds that would bring peace to entire sectors of the galaxy. But their greatest achievement would always be proving that two very different beings could choose to love each other, and in doing so, change the universe itself. The armory where it all began would be preserved as a monument to cooperation. Visitors from across the galaxy would come to see the workbench, where a human engineer and a Zephyrian warrior first learned to trust each other. They would hear the story of how a simple act of kindness, one person helping another fix something broken, had grown into a love that bridged the stars. And in quiet moments, when the ceremonies were over and the speeches were done, Jake and Zara would return to their workshop and continue doing what they did best, taking broken things and making them whole, building bridges between worlds, and proving every day that the best technology of all was the one that brought hearts together.